Hey everyone, it's Skylar Thomas on the Watching Humans channel, and today I am going to do a reaction video. This is to a TED Talk that was sent to me by our friend and ally, Ray Cooper, who also gave me this book, authored by the same person that we're going to see in the TED Talk today, Randal Plunkett. And you're going to understand why I was inspired to react to this TED Talk in particular. And the book is pretty good so far too. We are going to have Randal on the show in the future. So this is a little warm up to understand why I really like what I'm learning about this person and what this person is doing. Now, as a part of this channel, I will be interrupting and talking about things that stand out to me in this TED Talk. If you don't want to hear that, I will include the original videos link so you can just listen to Randal's TED Talk without listening to what I found inspiring about it. And I'm not going to say anything else about who Randal is because he introduces himself in this TED Talk video. So without further ado.
I come from one of the oldest families in Ireland, still associated with one place. We were Normans. We came to Ireland, we built a castle, we cut down all the trees, and we made farmland, and we did very, very well.
I know, I'm stopping awfully soon, but we talk about this a lot on the live shows on the channel, don't we? How much credit do you want to give to people who come into an area, consume the resources, replace it with their own commodities? Point Reyes National Seashore, California.
There have been some celebrities in my family. We had a poet, writers, artists, soldiers, politicians, even a saint. So that's a legacy. And my father would teach me my role, my future role. And my role was not to be an owner. No, you're a caretaker, a steward of history. Your job is to look after the past. Try and do something yourself, and most importantly, add something to pass it on to the next generation. Do you know what I said to that? Hell nah, brah. I'm going to go and listen to heavy metal. I'm going to date a girl with face tattoos. I'm going to live in Vegas. And my dad, he'd laugh. He'd say, well, you might not think like that the rest of your life. Well, that was the thing with my dad. We had a great relationship. We tell stories, always telling stories. Irish people are very well known for telling stories. The stories I remember the most were the ones about the animals and all the young stories of my dad running through the woods, seeing all these animals. And then I'd go outside and there'd be no animals. Occasionally, the odd cow. They get boring, by the way. So one day I asked my father, where are all the animals? And then he paused and he said, well, they're not there anymore. They are victims of our success in farming.
Sounds like quite a dad. I mean, the patience of being like, well, maybe you'll change your mind someday. And then the honesty. Our ranchers out here pretend like they are friends with nature. What do I say on the show all the time? It's like nature and agriculture are not friends. In fact, one is removed and replaced with the other. They are not friends. His dad was honest with him.
My father died in 2011, and guess what? I never went to Vegas. I was the steward now. And every generation has a battle, has a fight. Nobody gets a free ride. Not rich or poor, we all have a battle. And I really realized that our battle was going to be the climate. In fact, we could be the last, could be the end, because our battle was life and death. It was the decision whether we were going to see the end of the natural world. And my father used to tell me before he died, if you're not happy about something, do something about it. So you know what? I said, hold my smoothie. And I said, fine, I'm going to do something about it. Because the problem is, we know what the problem is. Today, 60%
The problem is we know what the problem is.
Of living species, mammals, are farm animals. 36% are humans. Anybody know what wild animals are? 4%.
Ever since I started quoting this, it's received pushback because it's such an unbelievable number. It's such an unbelievable number. That should inspire everyone to change and to do what Randal is doing. We got to have more than 4% of the wonders of the planet that we enjoyed as children before we were taught not to value them.
Animal agriculture is the biggest destroyer of forest and forestation, deforestation.
Uh-oh. How dare you? How dare you say that? I mean, it's true, but whoo, how many people closed their ears already?
Animal agriculture is one of the main culprits in the destruction of biodiversity. Animal agriculture is one of the biggest polluters and methane emitters.
And yet our Point Reyes ranchers, all the ranchers here in the United States of America, are rebranding everything they do to tell you that they actually are going to make things wilder. They are the source of biodiversity. It's a miracle that we have birds at all without cows. Cows are the portal to wildlife. So it's the only thing more ridiculous than their propaganda are the people who buy into it.
We have become victims of our success, and we're eating away our future, one hamburger at a time. Now, I'm sure there's lots of parents here and future parents. What are you going to say to your kids? You want to do the best for your kids, but you're going to eat your way out of their future. So I said to myself, no, I was not going to do that. If I have to fight, I'll die fighting. So I decided I was going to do something different. I was going to start a nature reserve because nature needed a break. The problem with the world today is we give nothing back. You ever try and be in a relationship where it's just take? First step to divorce. So
I'm sorry, I am doing it again. I said I was going to. I warned everyone. I said I was going to do this. Extractive industries who pretend that they are friends with the earth because their industry is directly correlated to the earth. What do they give back? Poop. Like, this is their big argument. It's like, well, poop is fertilizer. It's a byproduct of your industry. Don't pretend like you came up with it in a manner that you were intending to be kind. And by the way, it's way too much poop, and it's the wrong kind of poop, and it's never ending poop. And that's all. The best that you have to give back is poop and lies about carbon credits.
I decided I was going to be an environmentalist. And at first I called it nature conservation. But nature conservation is a lot like British people walking around Spain with sandals and socks. It's weird. Everybody goes, well, what the hell, bro? So I was like, no, I'm not really doing that. And then I heard another word, and it was called rewilding. And I was like, yeah, rewild. You could put that on a t-shirt. So I was a rewilder now. And I was like, yay, rewilding. But what is rewilding, you might say? And I would tell you, in my eyes, it is the natural restoration of nature's processes through organic actions. Or, to the layman, we leave it alone, let nature do the business, and it's fixed. But that's, as time went on, not quite what I was doing, because I realized...
Let's take a moment to talk about the difference between regenerative ranching, regenerative farming, and all that, and rewilding. Because regenerative farming makes sure that farming, animal farming in particular, gets to keep doing what it was already doing while making you feel better about it, making you think that you're rewilding. It basically tries to claim that it achieves what rewilding does. It doesn't. And I want to go back to something you said earlier about the importance we put on putting a hamburger in our mouths and eating ourselves out of our own future, eating our children out of their own future. And he was like, I'm going to choose something else. How is it so rare for people to make that decision? It seems like the only possible choice you could make.
That there was something different between what I was doing and what other people were doing. You see, a lot of rewilding is actually nonsense. It is regenerative grazing.
Oh, there we go.
That's an excuse for you to have hamburgers. You don't really have to change your habits. And we are still eating our way to destruction. Now, don't get me wrong, it's better than the status quo. You're choosing the low-fat option. Fantastic. But not enough. It's a side step, a half step, and guess what? We don't need half steps. We need big steps. There's a freight train coming, and we better get out of the way. So, no, I was doing something else. I was doing vegan rewilding, or as I like to coin the term, V-wilding. It's very clever, I know. So what is it that I was doing? First off, I was not teaching foxes yoga, and I was not feeding tofu to squirrels. I was not killing. My job was to allow nature to have a breath. It needed a breath. It needed space. So what I would do is I would leave everything alone. Nature knew what it needed. It was going to happen. So the farmer said to me, well, what are you going to do with all the land? And I said, oh, we're going to leave it. Nature. And he said, well, you're going to ruin the land. It's all going to be full of weeds. And I said, you don't know that for sure. He said, well, actually, we do. He was right. It exploded with weeds. And by the way, in Ireland, where I live, if you have too many noxious weeds in a field, the government will fine you. So I said,
that's incredible. That's kind of incredible because all I see in ranch land here are not noxious weeds. In fact, the effect has been so catastrophic that that's pretty much California's landscape unless you're inside of a national park or a state park. It's noxious weeds. It's European annual grasses and thistles, poison hemlock, Italian thistle, bull thistle. Anyway, wow. They'll fine you if you have too many noxious weeds. That's incredible. But let's go back to what he was saying before. It sounded like he was kind of describing what we talked about on the show, which is passive recovery. Just back off, stop doing the bad things that you were doing. And in this case, we're talking about agriculture being the bad things, and let nature have a chance. Now, we talk about whether or not there's enough time. Can we afford to be passive, or do we need to not only stop hurting, but actually give a lending hand? And of course, that gets dangerous because you have all these people claiming that giving a lending hand is something that's actually harmful. In fact, it's gotten so ridiculous that they say that the lending hand is the exact same problem that you just removed. And that brings me back to talk about the importance of the hamburger. Like, you just aren't that dumb. You aren't. You're choosing to believe something that you want to believe because you so badly want to put a hamburger in your mouth.
Right, I'm not willing to use chemicals. So what am I going to do?
Good.
I had to get gloves, workman's gloves. Unfortunately, the Plunketts didn't do a lot of manual labor, so I was without gloves. So I went into my kitchen because we do wash our own plates. So I got pink gloves, right? Now I want you to picture this. A 6-foot-tall goth guy, death metal t-shirt, pulling weeds in a 200-acre field. I looked ridiculous. The neighbors thought I looked ridiculous, but I didn't care. So I did this for a month. I had great biceps, by the way. Girls would have loved it, except no girls. And then the problem is as I pulled, they'd come back worse. So the first year, I did it for a month and gave up. And I said, you know what? I'll wait till the council comes back, sends me a nasty letter. So the first year, disaster. Second year, worse. Third year, they were on steroids. Fourth year, a little bit better. Fifth year, they were gone. And instead, there was grass, but not the same grass. We went from 3 grasses to 30 grasses. There were mosses. There were wild flowers. The place was exploding with life.
I got to do it because this is exactly the type of BS warnings that people who want to keep grazing and who want to perpetuate the problem tell you it's going to happen. Oh, without us, it's going to be a big problem. Oh, without us, the source of the weeds in the first place, you're going to have even more weeds. Well, with the domination of these invasive grasses, these annual grasses, these noxious weeds, yeah, it's going to take a while for the natives to fight back. And I have often wondered how do native plants find a way back through not just decades, like more like multiple centuries of land abuse. And yet I've seen it. I've seen it myself. I've seen native plants start to come back in places that I've done a little bit of work. And I was like, where did you come from? Where did you come from? All I ever see is blankets of seeds of the wrong plants. And then look at that. Nature's trying to come back. Now, he did what I questioned whether or not we're willing to do, which is passive recovery. He sat back. And according to him, it took 5 years to see nature start to win. That's interesting. I mean, that's more than interesting. That should be studied.
Life. And then there were insects. Insects galore. All the way through the field. And with the insects came the rare birds. And then the normal birds. And then the birds of prey. And with those birds, were bringing new life into the place. I got to see one new animal return a year. I got to see pine marten. I got to see hares. I got to see the woodpecker. Now, the woodpecker hadn't been in Dunsany or in the county for 100 years, and I had them. So I was like, Rewilding works. And I said to myself, wow. But I did have a problem. And the problem was deer. Now,
I mean, before we get into the deer thing, let's understand that removing agriculture led to the return of biodiversity. He's describing biodiversity. And what's the other direction? Well, it's what I said at the beginning. You come in and you destroy biodiversity and replace it with how you want to make a living, your form of success. Like I'm so the other direction now that I wouldn't even consider it success, whether I became rich or not. If I kill life and remove biodiversity and get a paycheck for it, I still wouldn't consider that success at this stage in my life. But the bottom line is you remove biodiversity for agriculture. You remove agriculture and biodiversity returns. And that's just the way it is. Yet we have increasing amounts of propaganda films and publications out there trying to make you think that biodiversity and ranching go hand in hand, that biodiversity and agriculture go hand in hand. Yes, of course, there's better versions of agriculture that are a little bit more friendly. But for the most part, this is true. They're enemies of each other. If you're treating the planet as business and something to consume for your profit, then you're an enemy. All right, let's get to the deer because this is where it gets real interesting.
Now, the problem is with Ireland is red deer destroy everything. They are like locusts. And we used to be able to control them with wolves. Problem is we got rid of them and now we had to do it. But I was vegan. I'm not.
Once again, I've got to say, what do they tell us in Point Reyes National Seashore? Oh, well, the elk populations are going to be a problem because there aren't any natural predators. Well, why aren't there any natural predators? Ranchers and humans not being willing to accept natural predators. We could have natural predators. You have to allow it. You're the reason that there aren't any natural predators. You are the reason that there aren't any natural predators.
Not going to kill anything. So I went from 40. Then I had 50. And now I had 150. And I risked going backwards, tumbling backwards. What if I was to tell you that didn't happen? What if I was to tell you that the natural regeneration of the forest was now doubled? What if I was to tell you the place was more alive than ever? Well, first, you might not believe me, but trust me, it did. But I noticed something. Every time I planted a tree, those grubby deer would eat them.
Hold on, this gets... when he comes on the show, or maybe the book will explain it, I'd really like to know a little bit more about... He's talking about an increase in deer, but he's also saying that the rest of the biodiversity is increasing too, if I understand that. He's going to get into specific examples about a tree here in a second. But, you know, I think a lot of people, we've been taught to think that an overabundance of deer means that you're going to start having a lack of biodiversity because there's too many mouths to feed. But it kind of sounds like he's saying that didn't happen. It'd be great to have him elaborate on that.
And yet there would be trees everywhere. I couldn't go through the forest. I'd be like trying to not step on trees. So I did a little experiment. I took a bunch of seeded oaklings, and I got 9 of them, and I planted 3 in one forest, 3 in another forest, and 3 in a third forest. And I planted them in between naturally seeded oaks. And I went for a cappuccino, and I walked away for 30 days. And I came back, and you know what happened? All 9 of my seeds, my trees, were eaten. And the naturally seeded oaks, untouched. How is this possible, you might ask? Have you guys heard of the mycelium network? If you haven't, it is a network of fungus underneath the soil. It's how plants communicate, and there's more and more evidence every day that they do communicate. Forests are communities. They communicate. They will protect themselves by letting off smells and tastes that will ward off grazing predators. Now, the mycelium network, when things are healthy, work and function. In fact, the more advanced the network, the better resistance it has. When we got rid of the animals, the farm animals, there was no more GMO. There was no more antibiotics. There was no more deworming medicine. So the land began to clean itself, detoxify, if you like. And the initial weeds that I was fighting were the succession process, the first stages of detoxification. And they were mending the damage. And things got a bit weirder. Not that it wasn't weird already.
So just stop and relate to that. There are some plants that you see at the beginning that are indicator plants, also pioneer plants. And sometimes their sole job is to prepare the soil for the next round that's going to come through. And every now and then, even watching the non-native plants grow can be part of that process. But if you're lucky, like where I'm at right now, there's something called horseweed that's coming up, and it's native. It's considered a weed, and it's still an annual, but it's doing something good to pave the way for other plants that are coming. And so I'm not pulling them.
One day I was walking down the woods, and I was trotting along. And then
again, I haven't released all of this yet, but something else taking place in Point Reyes National Seashore is lupin nitrogen fixing plants in fields where they would chop down the plants, the silage fields, and then just dump poop on it. You know, the one thing that ranchers give back. Shit. Anyway, the lupin are trying to fix the soil, and they've never had a chance to fix the soil before because the ranchers have always been there abusing the soil.
I heard someone cutting down a tree, and I said, how dare they cut down my tree? So I got myself aggressive, got my chest pulled out like Conor McGregor, and I got my pointiest finger, this one, and I went like this, and I got my inner Karen mojo on and said, hey, you can't cut down my tree. And there was nobody there. And I thought, oh God, I've gone mad. I've been rewilded. And then I saw it, something I am never going to forget. 2 stags, big ones. They were hammering down a cherry laurel tree. And I'm not talking the David Attenborough, I'm scratching my neck horns. No, I'm talking about the more cartoon style, smashing the tree. And I stood there
Wow.
like, and then they noticed me. And then there was what we call in the film industry a Mexican standoff, where I was gonna reach down to my pocket very slowly. Don't spook him. I was reaching for my phone. And I got my phone and I pulled it out. And fingerprint identification. No, denied. Second time. Ooh, no. Third time. No. Oh, code now. And they ran. And I said, that was.
I can relate. I'm sure Jack will be able to relate, even though I use the phone all the time to film, every now and then something goes wrong that doesn't make any sense and the moment is lost.
Weird. Nobody's going to believe me. So I said, okay, we'll walk on. Over time, I began to notice that cherry laurel trees were disappearing. Now, first, I saw the branches gone. Then they looked diseased, and I was like, what's going on here? And by the way, cherry laurel is an invasive species. It grows very well. And I began to realize that cherry laurel was even being taken out into the fields. And I was like, well, who brought that there? Nothing eats cherry laurel. It absorbs arsenic from the ground. In fact, if you cut it, it will release cyanide. It is the nastiest, most evil tree. And in fact, there's even new research to suggest that if you attack this tree, it can poison the ground and kill all the plants below it for years. Nothing eats it. It is the terminator of plants. What if I was to tell you that we discovered that the deer were eating it? They were destroying it. They were attacking it aggressively. And this invasive plant that I would not control was now in decline. What would that mean? Well, what if we restored things naturally? What if nature no longer had to fight against the pollutants and they started turning their attention on defending the forest?
Thank you.
What if I could do that? What would that prove? That would prove nature adapting. This is speculative now, but understand, this is the only place so far that we have found that this is happening. We've spoken to scientists, we've spoken to educators, no examples of this anywhere else. I even Googled it. No. And what if this is the first signs of change? What if this is the first signs of evolution? What does that mean to us in the natural world? It means that just because we've lost things doesn't mean we're whipped. We can still change, we can still have a future. But it needs nature to be having a break. It needs nature to revive itself. How does one build muscle? One goes to the gym, you hit the bench, you damage the muscle, then you rest, and then it grows and adapts. We ourselves as humans are echoes of nature. We do the same stuff. We are merely echoes. So why isn't nature doing the same thing? Well, it does, and maybe this proves it. So what is the future of rewilding? Well, the UN says we have to rewild an area the size of China, so we better get busy, shouldn't we? And you might say, well, that's very nice for you. You're rich. You've got a big estate. Well, yes, that's true. But that doesn't get you off the hook, because the truth of the matter is, all of us got us here. All of us are responsible. Everybody wants a future, and that's the problem. It's so easy, it should be somebody else. We all are masters of our own destiny. We all create our world. And if you want a good world, if you want a future world, what does that world become?
I got to jump in because this is why Trump being in office is so depressing. Like, you want to talk about someone who could afford to be better. Like, he was like, hey, yeah, I've got an estate. Okay, so Trump's rich as hell, and the only thing he can think about is destroying more for more riches. And he's talking about we need to rewild an area the size of China. Well, even with less evil people in political power, we weren't reaching our rather pathetic conservation goals of setting aside a certain amount of the ocean and not, constantly harvesting it, the nice word for raping, or not doing the same thing to terrestrial areas. And we were barely even on the right path there. Trump is undoing what little good was being achieved, not only undoing it, but going the other direction. It's pretty depressing as someone who wants to hope that there's a fighting chance. And he's doing the right thing. He's doing what you're supposed to do. He's providing a message of hope. And he's saying, hey, if we stop being so destructive, nature is showing that it's capable of another form of evolution. And what do we have to do? We had to stop applying all the chemicals and all the things that we think is the way to do it, constantly managing, constantly being in control, never letting nature be in control, never giving nature a chance to be the manager. We talk about that on the show all the time, don't we? Humans will not relinquish their control. And I've been saying for months on the show that I wanted to share these examples in which I actually relinquished some control. And it started by me actually manipulating a little bit. I invited California figwort native bee plant to grow in my humble little area of land. And then I saw the variable checker spot butterfly caterpillars crawling around on sidewalks a couple months later. And it's like, well, these guys aren't going to last very long trying to live off of pavement. I said, why don't I bring you to a plant that I happen to know your species loves to consume prior to turning into a butterfly? So I brought them over and they started consuming like crazy. And it goes against everything that I think your typical gardener or today's deathscape landscapers preach. And oh, don't allow these pests, don't allow this and that and the other thing. Well, I get it because the plant looked like it was being consumed. But you could also sit back and say, I'm witnessing nature. I'm witnessing a process that is supposed to happen. And I did. I got out of the way. I let them consume the plant. I saw the variable checker spot butterflies emerge. It was wonderful. And the plant came back bigger and stronger than ever. That's one of my examples. And I've filmed it, and it'll take me a long time to get all, because it's months of footage of the process. But there's another example that I've been wanting to talk about on the show, and that is me exerting too much control and getting a little overly excited about trying to plant some native plants that aren't native to right here. And this is a topic that my co-host and I will butt heads on, but I actually do believe, based on the other wildlife, the other native wildlife in the area, that you do need to respect which species of plants were there, because those are the plants that those animals know how to live with. And even though, you know, there's something to be said about let things live, there's also something to be said about letting certain things live contributes to other things not being able to live. Anyway, back to something Randal said that was inspiring, and that's letting nature be the manager instead of us being the land manager, letting nature be the manager. And there was this gopher that was pulling the plants that weren't actual natives to the area underground. And I could have been like other people are and go to the store and get all kinds of poison and underground traps and all these other evil things that people do, or those annoying beep, the noises that are supposed to drive them away. Or I could chill the F out and see what happens, because there was something else I was observing. The plants that are naturally occurring in the area, those ones were being left alone. Ooh, human being, a little bit of intelligence, a little bit of observation. I mean, it's a pretty simple lesson. Look, hey, like if you had a teacher in a primary school class say, what's the difference between what's happening here and what's happening here? Well, you stop and think about it a little bit and it becomes clear. That animal was targeting very specific plants. It wasn't going through and wiping out everything. It wasn't a ravenous destroyer. It was being a manager. It was being a gardener. And I have that on film too. I'll release it someday. Anyway, this was my excuse to talk about these things, because he is talking about us getting out of the way and seeing what nature can come up with. What if nature can come up with the solution? Because we're probably not going to. We humans are probably not going to be able to come up with the solution, but we better let nature start evolving and reacting to the problems that we've caused.
You make your own reality. That's one thing I did learn in my life. And I'll tell you something. It all comes down to what you decide to have on your plate, what you decide to make as decisions. So how do we do it? Everybody's got a windowsill. You can leave the grass alone. You don't have to kill things. And you know what? Our future can be great. It can be a utopia. We can be giants instead of monsters. The beautiful thing about nature is we're part of it. By trying to kill it, you're killing yourself. You're killing the future. And the wonderful thing about nature is all it needs is space and a plan. People used to laugh when you talked about going to space. And you know what? We got to space because we wanted to. Do you want to change things? Do you want a future?
Rather positive. He got bold. He got a little bit bold there. He showed like a little hints of the way I talk, calling us monsters. But and you know, a lot of people don't want to hear it. People don't want to hear that what's on your plate is the biggest change that you could make. But it's true. We have the means. We have the will. When we decide to be intelligent, when we decide to be industrious, we can do things like go to space. But we can't save the planet that we're on because we're going to keep putting hamburgers in our mouths. Anyway, I look forward to having him on the show, and I've got 3 questions from the prologue alone, so we might have to do a different format than me just asking questions that I'm coming up with. But we'll have Ray Cooper on that show too. Anyway, looking forward to it. Great TED Talk, Randal, and great work that you're doing back home.